To honor the fallen, Dr. Sheridan takes his students from American University on a walking tour of the wars in Belgium.
So what happened in World War I is they dug trenches. They went deep. So you're beneath the machine guns, you're beneath all this other sort of thing. So technology had to overcome that, and technology overcame that through the invention of things like tanks, which could roll over the top of trenches. You get to World War II, okay, the strategy and tactics have adapted, but the weapons are equally as dangerous as they were before. So what the men did to provide themselves shelter was they again dug into the ground, but they knew they weren't going to be there for weeks or months at a time like they were in the First World War. So they dug what were called foxholes, which were kind of shallow holes in the ground that would protect you from, surface fire coming at you. And if you covered the top of the foxhole, it could protect you from artillery shells and everything coming in. All right. So what you see here is what's left over of what had originally been a foxhole of Easy Company. This entire forest was filled with these foxholes. All right, and you can also see a couple of other examples. Just look at where the ground indents a little bit. And why aren't the foxholes there anymore? Well, it rains and snows a lot. Obviously, they cave in over years, but you can tell by the indentations where these foxholes were originally.
Each footstep is a step back in time.
Here, we actually get to visit a lot of the places where a lot of fighting actually happened, where people actually died on this soil, whereas in the United States, we're more separated from that because that stuff didn't happen so recently.
Weathered ground reflects the history of fighting. Each memory, a lesson in sacrifice.
When you visit an American military cemetery, all of the graves are marked by either a cross or a Star of David, as you see right here. Star of David for those of the Jewish faith, cross for all others. Everything else was buried under a cross, all right? This scene behind me was originally the American cemetery here at Foy. So after the war, 2,700 Americans were buried in the space behind me, plus an additional 8,000 Germans were buried back here as well. After the war, when the U.S. government was looking for sites for the permanent cemeteries, they deemed that this ground was not suitable for a permanent cemetery. Most of the remains, those that they could identify, were transferred to the Henri Chapelle American Cemetery. Those where there were any questions about the identification were sent to the Ardennes American Cemetery in Belgium. So the ones who were buried here were sent to the two American cemeteries that were here.
It's easy to read all the numbers of things like people that died, and all the numerical statistics, but it's hard to actually put that into perspective of the actual human lives that were impacted. Just seeing a number only means so much. So I think that sort of just honestly just brings me more questions than answers as to what was this really like, other than just seeing some plaque in a museum.
When did they actually dig the holes? Because if they were 12 hours, they built trenches and holes and all that stuff.
As fast as they could when they arrived. I mean, there's no one answer to that, but no, as soon as you know this is going to be your position, you'd start digging. All right, my father, yes, I'm really, really old. My father was a World War II veteran. He served in the Lorraine in the 7th Army. He never talked a lot about his military service like most veterans of the war, but the one thing he did talk about is he said the one thing the war taught him was how to dig. He said, I could dig really fast and really deep. He said I could dig all the way to China if I had to. That was the only thing that went through these guys' minds was dig, dig, dig. Now, it is Bastogne, it is the 20th of December, it's snowing and that ground is frozen.
Wow.
You dug anyway. You found a way to do it. You found a way to do it. Easy Company's objective was the village of Foy, F-O-Y. So after they had cleared out the Bois Jacques in that direction, all right, they had to turn their attack north to where the Germans were. And the Germans were at the village of Foy. You see the first buildings there on the left-hand side. And just a little bit further down, you can still see a bit the top of a roof right there. That is where Foy was, all right? And Easy Company had to attack Foy, coming across this open field, basically 200 meters of open ground, against a group of Nazis that had been there for effectively 4 weeks. If there's one lesson I want you guys to take away from this today, all right, is these guys' death. Everybody that died here at the Battle of the Bulge, their death means absolutely nothing in and of itself. What their death means is whatever you decide it's going to mean. Remember that in World War I, 155,000 Americans died. Okay? They're buried in one American cemetery in Belgium and about 16 American cemeteries in France. All right? They came to save Europe from tyranny. And 25 years later, that next generation just let it all disappear. Their lives meant absolutely nothing because Europe found itself under the jackboot of the Nazis.
The thing that really stuck out to me the most was when we looked at the one monument with the Belgian and the American flag up at the field in that direction. And it specifically said that the deaths of the soldiers who died here only mean anything insofar as we make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. Nothing like this in terms of all the deaths that occurred and in terms of the large-scale war as a whole.